Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video, wherever you are, whatever you may be doing. Thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd Family part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. If you jump on here live here on this Monday evening, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Make sure to give the video a like, a thumbs up. If you have not yet subscribed, please do so and share the video on all social media platforms. And to be honest with you, right before the video started, I had to make sure that today was Monday. Hey there, Ima. Glad to have you here. As always, good evening, Kevron. Glad to have you here because of all this bad weather and just about everywhere except for South Florida. Our church got canceled yesterday, so since I had no church yesterday and I was home all day long, it didn't feel like Sunday, so today has not felt like Monday. So I've been confused all day long on what day it is. So before I started the video, I had to make sure that it was indeed Monday. I thought you were in Florida, but I wasn't positive. So I'm assuming that unless you're in a weird part of Florida, that you didn't get anything down there. And I tell you what, most of the time here where I am, most of the time we don't get anything. You hear all the talk about, what's going to happen all over. There's been times in the past, especially in December when we get snow, that it'll snow all around us and we don't get anything. So this time I thought we won't get anything. We didn't get a whole lot as far as snow. We got a quarter of an inch of snow, maybe, if that much. I mean, it wouldn't even touch your big toe. But after it all melted, we got a lot of ice and some sleet. But outside of that, not a whole lot. But most of the time, it'll snow up the road an hour, 3 inches, and we don't get diddly squat. So we don't normally get anything a little bit this time, but mainly ice and sleet. Yes, they were open, Marcus. I don't know of anything around me that wasn't open, with the exception of I think the grocery store uptown opened a little bit late. But outside of that, I drove through town today and it looked to me like everything was open, but just not a lot of people were out. But, that's about it. But I'm going to thank God we've got a fireplace. And once you turn that fireplace on and let it stay on for about 2 hours, your house is warm. The rest of the day, you don't need anything. So that fireplace is definitely a blessing. But let me know what part of Florida you are in, because I'm curious, because I did see that most of Florida, if not all of Florida, didn't get anything. But I think Florida's about the only place that didn't get, any kind of winter weather. Oh, you're in Vero Beach. I'm not exactly sure how far that is from me. I've been to Florida a couple times in my life. My sister lived there shortly after high school, so I went down there. But that's been probably 20 years ago. It's 63 degrees. Well, I'm sure you are loving that. I must say you are very lucky to be in one of, if not the only part of the U.S. that didn't get hit with some kind of winter weather. But as always, I do appreciate you checking in here on the channel. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit of college football and some NFL. I mentioned the other day about the Dabo Swinney press conference talking about, Ole Miss. And, Dabo pretty much said that, if you're not going to, lay down the law and punish them, then, it's not a sport, because, if you're not going to punish people for doing wrong, then there's no guidance and there's no punishment, then there's no sport. And I don't know what's going to happen. More than likely, they're probably going to suspend Pete Golding for two games, three maybe, which basically means there's no punishment, because that serves no purpose whatsoever. And that was kind of Dabo's point was, if you're going to let these people blatantly break the rules and do nothing, then, why are there rules in the first place? But some people say he was an idiot for saying something. Some people say he's a genius. I just think it takes guts to say what he said because most coaches wouldn't say it. But I think what most folks don't realize is that Clemson is probably one of 15 programs, maybe, if that many, that are clean run programs. So when you're a clean run program that does nothing wrong, you can say stuff like this because if people say, "Oh yeah, we're going to investigate you," well, you can investigate, but you're not going to find anything. So if you have nothing to hide, you can say stuff like this, and that's why most programs and most coaches don't say anything because they know it goes on. But if they say anything and their program gets investigated, they're going to get in trouble. But you can investigate Clemson all you want to, and I promise you, as long as Dabo's their coach, you're not going to find any wrongdoing. So that's why Dabo's saying something. But Dabo is trying to take college football back to where it used to be, back to where it should be. Hey there, Liam. Glad to have you here. And if you're a college football fan and you don't like the direction that we're going with college football, even if you're not a Dabo fan or not a Clemson fan, I don't see how you could not like what he's saying because he's trying to purify college football and make it a clean sport like it should be. And I don't see what the downside of that is. You don't have to be a Dabo fan or a Clemson fan to just want to see college football back to what it used to be, back to where it should be. And what exactly are you asking me about NC Central, Liam? Um, so I think it's a great idea. People that are saying it's stupid are people that know their program is doing wrong and they think, well, as long as we don't get investigated, it's not a big deal because, everybody's doing it. The Super Bowl should be good, Marcus. So I think it's a fantastic idea, and I'm glad somebody finally stepped up and said something. A little bit about the NFL. Marcus just brought it up. We had the conference championship games yesterday. We had the Patriots and the Broncos. The Patriots win 10-7. Uh, the first half, you never know what was coming, but second half, by mid third quarter, it was a blizzard, and about a 45-minute gap between mid second quarter and mid third quarter, and the ground just got covered in a blizzard. So the second half, because of that, not a whole lot went on, but the Patriots win 10-7. But Jarrett Stidham played and threw a pass for the first time since January of 2023, and he wasn't great, but he wasn't terrible. I thought he'd be the reason why the Broncos would lose. He really wasn't. They didn't ask him to do much, so he didn't have to do much. It's not like he fumbled 4 or 5 times and threw 5 picks. He didn't. He just didn't do a whole lot of anything. But Broncos missed 2 field goals, and Will Lutz is generally a reliable kicker. But he missed 2 field goals yesterday, and that was the difference in the game because the Broncos lost by 3 points. But, the Patriots have done a quick rebuild. All they had to do basically was get rid of Gerard Mayo and name their permanent starter, and they've done a complete turnaround in 1 year. Marcus, some people like football in the snow. Some people hate it. I've never minded it as long as the snow's not too heavy because when it's too heavy, it's hard to watch the game because the snow is so heavy that you can barely see the ball and barely see the players. But as long as it's a light snow and you can see, I don't mind it. It makes for sloppy football because you see guys falling down, you see guys, missing tackles, you see guys dropping the ball because of the conditions. So it makes for sloppy football, but it makes for entertaining football. But I would rather watch one with the sun shining than I would with bad weather. The one thing I never understood is when, and of course, I know this day and time people complain about anything. They complain when it's hot, complain when it's cold. That's the way people are. But I never have understood why when a team plays in those kind of conditions and they lose, the fans of that team blame those conditions. Like the other team also played in those same conditions, like a few years back, might have been 2015 or 2016. Notre Dame came to Clemson, and Clemson that night, it was a night game, and it was extremely, extremely cold, and it rained. I mean, almost the entire game, and you could hardly see the football on the screen. And then after the game, Brian Kelly, who's coaching Notre Dame, complains about the conditions of the game. Like he was doing the same thing when Clemson had the ball. It's not like when they had it, the sun was shining. When the Fighting Irish got it, the bottom dropped out. What you played in, the same thing Clemson played in. So I never have understood why coaches and fans of a team will complain if their team loses when the weather's bad. Like, well, the other team played in the same kind of conditions. It wasn't just your team. But this day and time, people complain about anything and everything, so it's really not a surprise. And the other game, the Seahawks beat the Rams 31-27. Now, this was definitely the better of the two games. It came down to the very, 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 very end, and the clock ran out. But, Sam Darnold was a late bloomer. When he came out of, college, if you recall, he played for a couple different teams, and it seemed like he just couldn't find his footing, just couldn't get going. He'd have a couple good games and then a few bad games, a good game and a bad game. But I think he's finally found a home in Seattle, and I think Seattle will win the whole thing. I do think they're the better of the two teams. I just don't trust New England's offense enough. I know New England's defense is fantastic, but I just don't think you're going to beat Seattle by scoring 14 points. And I just don't know if New England can score more than that. And Marcus, you say that, but not in college, but NFL wise, just about every single team, if not every team, has either a indoor stadium or a retractable roof. I don't know if you'll ever see it in college because you have too many college football fans that are old school, have the old school mentality, and they want to play outside, so they want to be outside. But, you see so many NFL games back in the day with rain and sleet and snow and ice and all that to where they just about all now have either just a indoor facility or a retractable roof to where they can cover it up, if it does get bad. But, in football, I understand if you're outside because, unless there's lightning, which you can't play in lightning, that they'll play in rain, sleet, snow. So I understand them playing outside. The one thing I've never understood is why baseball teams don't have indoor stadiums. Because baseball, they will not play in ice, they won't play in rain, they won't play in sleet, they won't play in snow, they're not going to play in fog, anything like that. So knowing that, and you play baseball for about 6.5 months altogether, more than likely you're not going to play 6.5 months and never have no kind of weather delay. So if you know that you can't play in any kind of bad weather, why would you not have a baseball stadium with a retractable roof at least so that if it does rain outside, you can close it? I've never understood that. If football's outside, I get it because unless it lightnings, they're going to play. But baseball won't play in any kind of bad weather. So why baseball stadiums aren't all either indoors or retractable, I'll never understand. Makes absolutely zero sense. So now we prepare for the Super Bowl coming up in 2 weeks. We'll have New England versus Seattle. Now, of course, this Sunday we'll have the NASCAR preseason race they call the Clash, and of course I'll watch that because it's NASCAR. And then we'll have the Super Bowl, and then we'll go back to NASCAR with Daytona 500 coming up on Valentine's weekend. So racing season is here, and football season, with the exception of the big game in 2 weeks, is over with. And again, I think Seattle wins the whole kit and caboodle. Maybe I'm wrong, but also another thing from NFL over the weekend was the Steelers hiring Mike McCarthy. Now, I don't think Mike McCarthy is a terrible coach, but I don't think Mike McCarthy is a great coach. I think Mike McCarthy is about the same kind of coach as Mike Tomlin. So, Mike Tomlin resigns, and you pretty much replace Tomlin with Mike Tomlin. So I don't know if the Steelers are going to get any better from this. I don't know if this was their way to try to get Aaron Rodgers to re-sign, since Aaron Rodgers played for Mike McCarthy years ago in Green Bay. But even so, that's not a long-term solution, because even if you get Aaron Rodgers to come back, he's coming back for 1 year. Mike McCarthy is going to coach for more than 1 year. So even if that was your plan, hey, if we hire Mike McCarthy, we'll get Aaron Rodgers to come back. That's still stupid, because Aaron Rodgers has maybe 1 year left. So I don't really know why you hire Mike McCarthy. You pretty much replaced Mike Tomlin with Mike Tomlin. But if McCarthy can win in the playoffs, the Steelers fans will be happy, because Mike Tomlin got to where he would finish above 500 and go to the playoffs, and ain't won a playoff game in about a decade. So if McCarthy can get there and win a game, I think Steelers fans will be happy. And Marcus, to answer your question, it all depends on the kind of feedback I get. I'm a huge NASCAR fan. Typically, since I've had this channel, what I do when NASCAR starts is sometime the following week, could be Monday, could be Tuesday, could be Thursday or Friday, I'll do a review of the previous weekend. When the season starts, I usually do trucks and the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series and the Cup Series. And then usually after about the first month, I'll stop doing the two minor league series and just focus on Cup. And I usually do one video per week where I just talk about the previous race, who won. I'll run down the top 5 or top 10, and then I'll do a preview of the upcoming weekend. And it's all one video. I do a review and preview in the same video. And that's usually what I do. And that's usually all I do, because I don't really get a lot of good feedback on NASCAR. Now, if I start getting more and more people that watch NASCAR or chit chat with me about NASCAR, I'll do more. But I don't feel like it's a good idea to come on here and do 4 or 5 videos a week talking NASCAR if nobody's going to watch, because I can talk about other stuff that people will actually watch. And I'm a huge NASCAR fan, I always have been, but I want to talk about stuff that people are going to engage with me on. And so far in 40 years, I just haven't gotten a lot of good feedback on NASCAR. But Marcus, if you know some people that like NASCAR and will talk it with me, get them here on the channel, and I'll be more than happy to talk NASCAR. I won't do it every day, but I'll sprinkle it in here and there more than I do if I get good feedback. If not, I do like I always do when the season starts, and I'll do one video per week where I review the previous weekend and preview the upcoming weekend. Any thoughts on any of this, please feel free to let me know. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. My dog ate a bunch of pronouns. He, she, it, everywhere. And Chesley, glad to have you back wherever you've been. Glad to have you back. Good to have you back here on the channel. And that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3.